And we're live. We're live.
Everybody, welcome back.
Oliveira.
Cold B. Jack.
We're episode number 85 of Bolts and Hose. It's been a couple of weeks.
I know.
We've been kind of off.
We've been slacking. I don't know, why haven't we done it?
I don't know. We've just been busy.
You've been napping a lot.
I think I was out one day or something. You've been out.
I'm never out.
Yeah.
I'm here
You
every
just
Friday.
take off on Fridays. I don't know about every Friday.
Not every Friday.
I think you were off last Friday. Can't remember.
I don't remember what happened
Cheers.
yesterday.
Eagle Rare.
Eagle Rarer.
Okay.
Is in the building. Delicious.
It's Go Texans Day. We can celebrate that.
Yeah, happy Rodeo Day.
Cheers.
The opening to rodeo was yesterday.
Every year they have a ride. What do you call it? A hay ride, or what do you call it?
Trail ride.
Trail ride.
Trail ride. They have multiple. Like
there's
eight trail rides?
I'm sure there's hay involved.
Hay ride.
There's
a hay ride back of the apple orchard.
and there's several of these trails. One of them happens to be right through Humble, so they go right by our shop. So
a bunch of horse shit on our street
they
here.
capture some footage there. Yeah, it's a bitch at lunch. You know, people coming to and from lunch.
Did you notice all the turds right in front of the driveway?
I did not. No,
Yeah.
I tried to. Yeah, I intentionally did not look.
There's a
at
bunch
that.
of horse caca on the street. But yeah,
but that's a good thing, though.
Yesterday was opening night. They had the opening night.
Do they
barbecue.
like ride down to where the rodeo is?
Yeah, it's just south of NRG.
So they ride all the way down there?
Yeah.
Really?
They have the.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah. Well, that's how it used to do it. It's off of 288.
Okay.
And it's
and then they all
have like a
meet
bunch
up?
of fields. Yeah, they just like hang out there.
Oh.
And their wagons and what have you. Their tents.
I've never thought about that, but
Their buckskin tents.
that's interesting.
Their buffalo tents. Yeah.
Well,
That's how it's done. It's like
Well,
old school, man.
we don't have any real agenda today. We're going to just show some parts and
Yeah.
just talk. We had a couple of technical topics we were going to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, this is a hot topic. I mean, this has always been a hot topic, and it came up here recently.
Is it really
so.
a hot topic?
I think so. In our world,
You
got
make
to
it
admit,
sound very exciting.
So-
and like several people are interested in this, which
if
no one is interested.
If you are in the Fastener world, this has came up before.
Okay.
For sure.
All right.
And I think people have gotten heated over it before. And I think it's your previous life before we started
That is
this
true.
glorious company.
Yeah.
There was a big fallout brawl over there on how they handle this.
Well, let's talk about
Right?
it. Let's jump into it.
So, a stud. Here, I'm going to go grab a stud real quick.
Oh my God. Wasn't even prepared with this.
You sit talk.
So I think what we're going to talk about, is the length of a stud and how to measure it properly.
So here's a stud, right? Fully threaded stud. You have a length end to end, and then you have a length first thread to first thread, right?
Which there's a difference. You think end to end and first would be the same, but it's not.
So typically, when you have a stud like this, when we make our studs, we make them on the Atlantis machine typically, we're gonna cut thread them, and then we're gonna chop them into the overall length, and then we're gonna put them in typically a stud master or a machine.
Yeah, so
and
when
we're
you
gonna-
saw it, it's going to leave a rough end. It's
Yep.
going to be a straight cut, and you're going to have a little burr on the end, and then generally a nut is not going to start easily. So you have to do something about that. And what you do is you machine a little chamfer, a little dressed end there, which has a length.
Yeah, so it's typically an eighth of an inch is your chamfer, right?
Nominally an eighth, yes.
Typically, it's an eighth of an inch on that little chamfer. And so then your overall length is a quarter inch, so an eighth plus an eighth is a quarter inch longer than your first thread to first thread length.
So if you think about the threads, it's helical, right? So right on the end of that stud where you've machined that angle, your thread only starts, and it's not until your thread wraps all the way around that you have a full thread. So an engineer will tell you that your length of the stud starts where that first full thread starts, not where the end of the stud lies. So if you were to measure it from end to end, one extreme to the other, that's one length. But if you measure from one first full thread to the first full thread, that's another length. Typically it's a quarter of an inch shorter than the overall length.
So I think this is going back to knowing your customer's needs, right? Because I think a standard in our world here in Houston, in more of a downstream oil and gas world, is overall length. If someone asks you for a 1x7, they're getting 7 inches overall length, right?
Yeah.
It is what it is, that's what you're gonna get. So your first to first is gonna be 6 3/4, your overall length is gonna be 7. I think that's how
I think this is important to mention as well. So we talked about cutting a stud, a threaded part, and it leaving that end, which would require you to put a chamfer on there so that the nut starts. There's also another high production manufacturing method where they'll get threaded bar and then they actually shear it, and they shear it in such a way that there's no need to chamfer it. You can start a nut on, and the thread goes all the way to the end of the stud. So
it's a good point.
It's synonymous to say that the first full thread and the end of the stud is the same. But when you're cutting it from bar with a saw, you're required to chamfer it, and you have to, there's a difference there when you're cutting with a saw. And most of the time you're cutting with a saw. Shearing is done in high volume applications, and quite honestly, it's done in China.
Yeah, I was going to say it's mostly an import
So it's
product,
imports.
right? So it's import. So people bringing in, 300,000 square foot warehouse full of standard import product from China. It's typically going to be shear cut, and your overall length is going to be the same as your first to first length.
So somebody calls you and wants a 7-inch long stud. What do you give them?
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull B7 rod. Let's just say it's a B7 stud, right? Full thread B7 stud. I'm going to take B7 rod that we have out in our shop. I'm going to put it on a saw. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to put a chamfer on it.
What are you going to cut? What length?
7 inches.
7 inches.
They asked for 7 inches. I'm cutting them 7 inches. But here's the caveat to that. In ASTM A193, that is not the right way to do it per spec. So it's kind of one one of these things that...
And you keep saying A193, but that's not the proper one.
A193
It
references
back
to
all the
A90.
way back to ASME.
It goes to 962, then it goes to 18.3 point whatever, whichever one is the one for the studs.
I think it's 2.
Yeah. And so that specifies that the length of a stud is measured first thread to first thread.
You see, Austin's all into this conversation. He's like standing up, listening to us.
I know. He's actually gonna watch this episode.
This is the emotion that stirs in a Fastener
I told you
guy's
it's a
gut.
hot it's a hot topic. I mean, I've never seen Austin stand up and listen to us for this long.
Because he's wanting to say he's ready to pounce on us like a dog, if we got something wrong.
Now, this is that one time where I said like the wrong material for a nut, and then, dude, I got called out by everyone and their mother. So he's waiting for us to make a mistake.
Nobody
on this
ever
one.
commented on our podcast until you made that error.
I know. So
Maybe we should intentionally do that.
I'm gonna fuck up everything.
Yeah.
So, right?
I love it.
No, but so the spec actually says that it's measured. The length is measured from first thread to first thread.
Yeah.
But this town, this industry handles things a little different.
It's a little subjective too, because it's subjective because where does that first full thread start?
Yep.
This is a helical part, so could you say that it starts 90 degrees from one area, or 170 degrees from another area?
And it's what is it? It's a 16th is the length tolerance on studs 3/4 062, which is a 16th.
Yeah.
Is the length 3/4 to 12 inches OD, or no, that's a length. 3/4 length.
So in some of the diameters, the chamfer can comply, even if it's chamfered or not chamfered, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Anything under 1 inch.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's not completely black and white. But I think it makes it a lot easier if somebody orders a 7-inch stud, you give them a 7-inch stud, extreme end to end.
Yep.
And that's generally the way the market functions right now from a fastener manufacturer standpoint.
There are people out there, you'll get some, nitpicky engineer who's going to say that,
Or an inspector.
that, hey, I need what the spec calls out for, and that is the first thread to first thread length.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things that we've learned over time, and we'll argue a little bit. But at the end of the day, the spec says what it says, and we'll replace the parts. But we'll let it be known moving forward. This is what you're getting. If you want something different, then you need to specify.
Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of times this is a moot point, just because if you're dealing with a tall thread stud, you're generally bolting a flange together. You've got nuts on both sides. You're going to require the 2 to 3 threads be exposed.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
So we're talking about one of those threads not being there, and
Or
it's
a quarter of the thread. It's
really
goofy.
aesthetics or somebody's preference. It has no bearing on the
And it depends if they're
functionality.
using washers, if they're not using. I mean, there's so many variables in there that how do we know what the answer
There's
is?
tolerances on the flange. There's tolerance on the raised face. There's so many things tolerance on the gasket thickness.
Yep.
I mean, there's so many things that would impact how many threads stick out of the end of that nut.
Yep.
And you stack all those things up, if they're all on one extreme to the other,
Yeah, I mean, your length is
it
going
could
to
be
goofy
even
anyway.
more moot,
Yeah.
or it could be more extreme.
It's definitely, it is a hot topic, man. You saw,
Yeah.
That conversation got someone who's typically not riled up.
True.
Riled up.
It's hard to get Austin to rile up.
Yeah. Well, sometimes. Depends. If he's drinking, he's riled up.
Yeah. So let's just jump into some parts, Bryce, go over this. I feel like we got a little momentum here. We're going a little fast. This is good.
Yeah, you like this?
And then
you like the
we
energy?
can jump right into the parts of the week.
You like the energy?
I love it. I love it.
You know, one thing we're going to talk about is collar studs. I mean, we've showed these before in the past, but this is another kind of technical topic too. So one-piece construction collar stud. This is a small one. I'm guessing this is what, like probably 3/4 by 10-ish?
All made of one
piece
of rod.
So start with a round bar, this OD, turn it down, do the threads. You got a little relief there, relief here, and then the wrench flats here on this side. So that's a one-piece construction collar stud.
That's a small one. We make
Yeah.
those things really big too.
Well,
so.
you're typically used to the small ones, you know? And then, here's another one. I don't know if this nut's going to fit. It's not. But you'll have two-piece constructions where you'll just take a full thread stud. You'll cut a piece of all thread. You'll chop it to the specified length. A lot of times they want the wrench flats on those as well. So you just do the wrench flats on one end, typically. And then you just take a standard nut, 2H, grade 7, whatever they're asking for, and you'd round it off. So this one is a 2H nut. This is just a 2H nut, hex nut, that has been rounded off. And that will be used as a collar. So it's a movable collar, two-piece construction that just spins on a stud, right? And this is another cool feature too. I mean, I'm terrible at the focus part of this, but so that's a tapped hole. I think that's like a 1/4 inch tapped hole. They'll use a set screw. It goes all the way through. They use a set screw, typically a, what's the point?
Cone point.
Cone point. They use a cone point to go in and dig into that thread so it doesn't move. All right? Kind of cool. So collar studs, interesting.
We make them both ways.
One-piece construction, two-piece construction, either or, we can do them all the time.
Because you know, this collar, when they take this apart, it's to hold the tube sheet up, right?
Correct. It goes in a
Yeah. So depending on how heavy that tube sheet is, I guess.
Tube what?
Tube sheet is.
That's the first time you've ever cussed on the podcast.
That's not true.
That is true. That's the
That's
first
not
time.
true.
At the 85th episode,
Is that
it's
a
the
cuss
first
word
time.
these days?
Shit
I mean,
is
it's
absolutely.
2025.
Is shit a cuss word?
I don't think so.
Yes, it is awful. I can't believe you. How dare you?
I got outvoted on that one. All right,
God, you're so filthy.
we can bleep that out.
Yeah, you better bleep it out. Your
But
children
what I was
watch this
saying
show.
is just the integrity of that set screw holding the weight of that tube sheet. Some people may not be comfortable with that. They want an integral one,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So, but there's definitely two ways to do it. This is a lot easier.
Cost effective. It's cheaper, right?
Yeah, and
You know?
easier. I mean, if somebody needed these things real quick, it would be a lot easier to produce these than an integral collar stud.
But the other thing too is that, you know, it's like it's adjustable, it's movable, it depends who's installing it, who's putting it in. There's probably a little bit of leeway that can go there. I don't know. I mean, this just seems like an engineer designed it. This is the length you're getting. Call it a day.
Cool, big hex bolt. Nothing special about that. It is just B7. But
You know,
it
someone
is
put that on my desk. JB, I think, put that on my desk a couple weeks ago. We were going to do the podcast, and then I think
Big,
you were too busy napping. So we didn't
beautiful
talk about
part,
it.
machined from large round bar.
But it is just a cool part. I mean, what size?
It's
do you think it
beautiful.
is? Probably inch and a quarter.
I'd say inch and a quarter. Inch and an eighth, maybe.
Inch and a quarter.
Yeah.
What size round bar do you
Beautiful
start on
part.
that?
Probably 2.5.
It's about right. I always double it just to
2.5.
cover your tail hole. You know,
Yeah, I do that all the time.
cover your tail holes.
You have to around you, Bryce.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm
And then
all
this
about
last
finding
one.
tail
Talk
holes.
about this one. This is a sexy part. We don't get too many sexy parts.
Austin,
Yes, sir.
did you figure out what we wanted to call this part? The waspaloid part?
Line motors.
Waspaloid.
Spline bolts? Is that what you call it?
Nah.
You can call these things a lot of different things. I mean,
about that.
through bolts, rotor bolts, rotor bolts. I think through bolts is probably the most common. But here's this beauty. Remember, I don't know, probably 8 months ago, 6 months ago, we did those bigger waspaloid parts. So these are waspaloid, once again, machined, heat treated, so rough machined,
Roll thread.
rough machined. I think, I don't know, I can't remember if we did the roll threads before we did the rough machine or after, but then heat treated and then finished. So lovely, lovely, expensive
Very
parts.
hard
I mean,
material.
a rotor.
stud, yeah.
Rotor. See, rotor stud.
Rotor.
What do we make? 10 of these? 12 of these?
Maybe 24 total. Yeah.
24 pieces. So lovely order. Expensive.
Beautiful.
Expensive material, man.
You know, the harder materials make such a beautiful finish.
It does. You know, Freddie was out there making some B3, I think it was, some Hastelloy B3. He said he was struggling big time. He said it was the hardest. This dude, all he does is machine hard Inconels and titaniums. He said that was the hardest material he's ever machined in his life.
He's got a couple of small lathes, but he makes some intricate parts on there. Yeah.
He says the hardest material he's ever messed with in his life. That's saying something.
Yeah.
And he was having to turn down
Because
for
he
lunch
came from an
hour.
aerospace fastener manufacturer, so he's machined some hard parts before. So, yeah.
Hard parts.
Yeah.
So, what else is new, Christopher?
We were talking about the planets tonight.
The
So
planets?
so there is an alignment of the planets to where the Earth and 7 other planets are on one side of the sun right now. So they'll be visible in the night sky tonight.
7.
You know, it's like right when the sun sets, and I think Saturn will be right there with the sun, so that'll be kind of difficult to see, but all the rest of them will be like in alignment, and that rarely ever happens,
So you have a badass telescope,
that
right?
planetary alignment. I've got several telescopes, yeah.
And then you have like a camera or a telescope that
I've
you
got
use with
cameras
the camera.
connected to several of the telescopes.
So are you going to take some pictures tonight?
I'm not going to be home, and it's not going to be dark enough. When all this happens,
you gotta
it's
go
going to
out
be
like-
right at dusk when it happens.
Gotcha.
And then by the time it gets really dark,
You're
3
gonna
of those planets will already be below
gone.
the horizon. So you're not. It won't. And you know, you don't really look at the planets in the telescope. You're going to look at one planet in a telescope.
Yeah, right.
You're not going to.
Do
You're going
the
to take
whole-
a picture
you're
of the
not
whole
gonna pan.
sky, and they're going to look like white dots.
Yeah, no panoramic views of space.
But it is interesting. You'll be able to see Venus, and it'll be a little blue shade, and you'll see Mars, a red shade. Jupiter will be a little, sandy color.
What shade is Uranus?
I think it's gray.
Green.
Yeah.
Oh, great. I thought it was a green
Yeah.
shade.
The reason Bryce is saying this is because I was telling him a fun fact. I had heard,
A fun fact.
I had heard that 63 Earths will fit in Uranus, Bryce.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice and snug.
No, I hear that there's plenty of room left
Like a
over as
glove.
well.
Like a glove.
It's not even close.
Yeah, you just shove it in and,
You can rattle them around.
yeah, you can walk around and,
63 of those bad boys,
yeah,
though.
and the Earth still spins.
63 Earths will fit in Uranus.
That's crazy. It's a lot of Earths in Uranus.
Well, it's true.
You always got to take it to some weird Uranus
What are you
place.
talking about?
Yeah,
We're
you
talking
know,
about planets.
you know.
Jeez.
What are you
So
doing this
that's all I
weekend?
got.
You got a little concert tonight?
We got the concert tonight. We're going to see. Remember, a few months ago, I saw a guy named William Beckman in Uvalde at the Uvalde Opera House.
It's like a young cat with a deep voice.
Young guy with a really good voice. He's like a country singer, but he's from Del Rio. He speaks perfect Spanish, and he sings like Vicente. He's like amazing.
That's funny.
Yeah, really good.
Little skinny white boy.
I let Alex listen to him when we were headed over to look at that equipment, and Alex was even impressed. Like, oh my God, he couldn't believe he was a white guy.
Yeah.
But impressive.
So you got him tonight.
Yeah, we'll see him. We got a little group going, so we'll go have fun with that. There's like dinner included at this place. And all
Can't
that,
beat
so,
that.
yeah,
Can't beat it.
so it'll be fun. And then on Saturday, we were given some tickets to the Rockets game. They're playing Sacramento Kings. And during the day, there's like some full court experience where you go on and I don't know if we're practicing with some of the players or not, and there's some of them are out there, but you got to shooting free throws and
Do you think you'll make any
three-pointers and all that
shots?
stuff. Yeah, that was my game in high school.
There's no way you're gonna.
That
make a
was my
shot.
game in high
I've
school.
seen you out in the parking lot.
I will, yeah, I would kill
You're
him
gonna
in
have
basketball.
Andrea or whoever's going with you.
I should probably practice a little bit
Yeah,
before I
you better
go.
get out there right now and get to hooping.
There'll be some kids out. It'll be fun. So
Yeah.
I think Andrea and myself and Jackson are going to go to that.
Cool.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Good.
And since we've had the podcast, I'm a grandfather now. I
Oh,
think
yeah?
We were talking
How about that?
Yeah, we were like the Friday before. I was
Yeah.
going to be a grandfather. Baby's 2 weeks old now.
Here, we'll drink to that. Congrats,
Cheers,
man.
brother.
Grandpa.
His name
Chris.
is Colby.
Colby.
Isn't that cool?
Colby. We won't say the last name, but Colby. Yeah.
Colby. Yeah.
He's a handsome devil. He came in and visited us at 2 days ago.
He's a cutie. Yeah, yesterday. And yeah, great little baby. So mom and dad are getting less sleep at night, and we're able to go over there and visit, and then leave.
And then leave.
It's a,
Right when that baby starts crying.
It's a wonderful, wonderful
See ya.
thing. Yeah, exactly.
Huh?
I'll have a good time.
Oh, I smell something. He needs a diaper change. We're out of here.
That happens.
Adios.
It happens.
Adios. Very good, man.
Okay.
Episode 85 in the
That's
books.
a good episode, Bryce. We covered some
think
good
so?
topics. We talked about Uranus a little bit.
16 minutes, and we only talked about my Uranus. Whose anus? So you can't. You can only talk about Uranus.
Have a good weekend, brother.
Here, here. Cheers. Thanks for joining us today.